Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. Start with the agenda. Any other additions from administration? Anything from council? Seeing none. Councillor Wilhelm.
Motion that the GMP committee adopts the agenda as presented.
Motion on the floor. Ask a question. All in favor? That one's carried. Minutes from our October 4th meeting. Any issues anybody see there? Seeing none. So I want to make a motion. Councillor Kuchen.
I'll move that the minutes of the October 4th be adopted or be accepted as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor to accept the minutes as presented. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? That is carried. 5.1.
Your worship, members of council, in our review of the Human Resource Committee, we found no terms of reference, and we've attached the council remuneration review committee policy that was established in 2019. So in light of the governance and priority where we bring all policies to this committee for review, administration is recommending or suggesting that maybe the Human Resource Committee is redundant.
And the remuneration committee also, or?
No, that one, because that one is in the third year of your 4-year term.
Okay.
They would then review your compensation.
Okay. Any discussion from council? Councillor Wilhelm.
Just through the chair to count, did we put anybody on the remuneration committee? We did, because I don't see it on our list of things we were assigned to this year.
I think we left that one alone as we have a discussion here.
Okay.
It's actually in the middle of the thing, and Councillor Cush, or Reeve Cush, Councillor Prestige, and Councillor Wilson. Human Resource Committee meets as required. The Woodlands County Committee, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th person down.
Oh,
Seven.
I know that one. I just meant the remuneration committee. We didn't assign
Oh,
anybody.
yeah, that's a policy versus a committee. It's interesting that the 3 members will be established for that. So it doesn't follow under the terms of reference for committees?
So that would be just as required, we would pick 3 individuals.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Questions? Councillor Gross.
So I just had one one question. It's not really on the list, but when we talked about the Airport Advisory Committee, we don't have the terms of reference here. It's 3 councillors from Woodlands, and it was 3 from the town. And I think
That was
did
amended.
that get changed?
Yes, it did.
Okay, then we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Council? Councillor Wilhelm?
Is the point of bringing up the remuneration review committee at this GMP to select the 3 councillors that are going to be part of it for this year, because it's the 3rd year? Like, why is this policy here?
It was requested council to have it.
Okay.
So I guess what we're looking at is if we want to keep currently the HR committee in or out. Councillor Burrows. Or sorry, Councillor Prestige.
Through the chair, we brought this committee in because we didn't have a human resources committee or person. So we have to look at all the salaries of all the employees. So that's why we brought it in, and now we have an HR person. We don't need it.
Councillor Prestige.
With that, I'll make a motion that Governance and Priorities Committee recommends to remove the Human Resource Committee from Council Committee list.
All right, motion on the floor, gentlemen. Any question on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That one is carried. 6.1, draft policies. Leah.
So good evening. Administration has recently put together 3 new draft policies for your review. These drafts have been shared with our Employee Policy Review Committee, and their feedback has been incorporated in the drafts shared with you. So first on the list is the Flexible Work Options Policy. The goal of this policy is to give both employees and their supervisors the flexibility to adjust work schedules while maintaining a balance between the employee's personal and professional commitments. The next policy is the Mobile Device Policy. This policy lays out the rules regarding the use of mobile devices for county operations, including the reimbursement guidelines when employees use their personal devices for job duties. We've also included expectations for the security of county data on mobile devices in this policy. And lastly, we have the Remote Work Policy. So this policy establishes the framework and sets expectations for remote work, just to ensure that the remote work experience is smooth and productive. So for these policies, they're critical for adapting to evolving operational landscapes, and they also play a pivotal role when promoting work-life balance, enhancing job satisfaction, and also contributing to retention and attraction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Mr. Dean.
Thanks. Through the chair to Leah. Reading through the policies and the rationale, it makes sense. I guess the only question I had was, as you just mentioned, for the flexible work option or the remote work option, the person that might be utilizing those options still had to maintain their professional responsibilities. So something comes to mind, if a resident needed to meet with a staff member like that, and say they were on a flexible work and they were gone, every Friday, or if the resident, the only time they could meet is when this person was away, how would you handle that? I know it sounds obscure and it likely won't come up, but it might, and I'm just wondering how you'd handle that.
I'm thinking in terms of the employee and supervisor relationship, these agreements for flexible work, they can be reviewed at any time. So if for some reason something did come up like that, we could just read
Sure, okay. So rather than trying to cover every conceivable thing that might come up, deal with it as it comes?
It would be a flexible agreement,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
Good, thanks.
Anything else from council? I definitely agree, with the changing workscape. Even at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, gala, they did talk about a lot of these types of changes and stuff coming in the roles, especially coming post-COVID, where a lot of people got used to this kind of work to start with. So I do agree. This is kind of, if a person can do the work and be productive still in their work and not be in the office, if it works better for them and it works for us, I'm okay with this, providing that they're still meeting their marks. Councillor Dean.
So, now I just want to come to the mobile communication devices. I read through where if an employee is receiving an honorarium, then they shouldn't consider their mobile device, what's the word I'm looking for? The organization would be able to access their mobile device if they're receiving an honorarium.
Right, so in circumstances, say an employee was communicating with a ratepayer on their personal device, and say the question came up as to what the communication was, that's kind of the situation that would be.
So does that extend to council? Or is that just for county employees?
Your worship, members of council, under FOIP, if we get a FOIP request and that individual asks for text, right, then we would ask for that information.
Okay.
Again, when the term accessing the employee's or employees' personal device. It's for the purpose of there's an incident or something where we have to do the investigation. We're not personally going to go out there and say, you have to hand over like the NHL coach did, right? I need to see your personal phone to see what you're doing, right? It has to be on an incident basis.
Even in our council orientation, that was something that Mr. Cuff had mentioned to us also. Any other discussion from council? Councilor Dean?
Seeing none, I'd move that the GMP committee for its draft policy 1975 flexible work options, 1976 mobile communication devices, and 1977 remote work to council for their consideration.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion? Councilor Burrows?
I just had one question that I wanted to get in, and it's not related to any of these three. Do we have a work alone policy?
Through our health and safety manual, we do.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Through our health and safety manual, we do, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Not seeing any. Call the question. All in favor? That is carried. 6.2 test product signage. Mr. Bashan.
Your worship, members of council, in 2020, administration utilized a couple new products, new to the county products, in the maintenance of roadways. At the time, council requested signage be installed to advise the public of the locations and that it was a test product being utilized. When that took place, there was no discussion at that time how long the signs would stay up. In 2023, council requested a policy on new products used. Attaches a draft policy for the Governance and Policies Committee's consideration. The policy identified what test products would be, the signage, test period. Test period would be the time from when a product is first utilized until a determination is made as to the usefulness of the product. The purpose to inform the citizens of Woodlands County what the county is up to. In the procedure, I did make an addition where it says ABCD, ABC, the D, for some reason didn't show up. And that is that signage is to be supplied and maintained by the supplier of the product. And if the signage becomes weathered or unsightly, it would be removed. Rationale, the recommendation is that the Governance and Policies Committee accepts the draft policy as information. And the recommendation is that the definition of new products is kind of random. It may be a product that anybody working at the county has used elsewhere. It gets tried out. It's not thought of as new. And the introduction of a test product signage policy would likely be a policy that will sit on the books and seldom be utilized. For instance, we used those two products in 2020. We haven't used anything since. And so the recommendation is that it gets accepted as information.
Councilor Dean.
So I just want to clarify, you said the D didn't show up, that's 4.1D under the.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Burrows.
So through the chair, when I talked about this idea of signage, it wasn't so much the idea of something, we seem to keep coming back to the idea of new, but the idea was that so if you use a product and let's say it's soil cement, and soil cement is supposed to last for 5 years, then the signage stays in place for a period of 5 years when the product is supposed to give out or wear out or have to be replaced. And you can assess the usefulness of it, because in the case of, I'll give a fairly good example. In the case of Horn Road where you've got that geoweb, if that geoweb is going to stay in the road for what, 20, 30 years. So if you've got a brand new grader operator or some operator working in that area, and 30 years later, we've forgotten there's web in there, and he cuts down hard enough to tear up all the web in that area, wouldn't it be nice to not rip the webbing out of the ground and have to redo everything? Like, I understand, you know, the idea around new, but it's not so much the idea around new, it's to give residents an idea to evaluate the products and council as well, so you can see how they're working out. And I think based on the conversations that we had around and some of the products that we saw at the trade show, we'll actually be looking at maybe trying to employ some of these different products. So I think this will be used more than sooner rather than later.
Any other discussion from council? Mr. Bashan?
Through the chair to Councilor Burrows, as far as, we'll use the example of Horn Road. We've had new grader operators on that road. They find the GeoWeb pretty quick, and they know what's there. And if they don't, they call. So as far as it all getting ripped out, I don't see that happening. They may, you know, cut a little bit of the edge off, but not a big issue.
So I do say, yeah, as far as the policy, I do like having this policy in place. And I do like the idea, especially, we talk about new products, but it might not be a new product to some of our operators versus possibly new to that area or new to the residents as well. As far as for the signage removement where it's, determination to be made for the usefulness of the product, I feel that we should be looking at this policy, but I think that the signage should be up for the, if we're testing a section and the product's good for a year or 5 years or 3 years or whatever, we should have a sign in that area. So like you said, so we can determine for us driving down, residents driving down, they know where that area is. They know how long, if you're past the useful life of it, obviously, you're not really doing a test anymore, but through the period of the lifespan of it, I do like the idea of having a sign there for us to be able to drive by. I expect if we're on our road tours or anything like that, we can see where it is, and it gives us kind of that visual driving by also. Anything else from council? Council Prestige?
Through the chair. And I think it shows to the residents that we're trying new things and we're letting them know this is new and it's a trial. Because when we just do something on a road and we don't show anything, the residents go up and down and they don't know. But if there's a sign there for 3 years or 5 years, they know this is a test section and is it working or not working?
And to that point though, also as far as the resident feedback, if we're gonna put signage up there, it might be worthwhile having, a part or something on there that says, something along the lines of we're open to comments or, something for feedback too, just so that we get the feedback. But I would personally like to move this policy along with an amendment to the, test period being for the life expectancy of the product. I'm just wondering what council's thoughts are. Council Prestige?
I don't like the fact leaving it up to the company that supplies it, because we may never hear from them again. I think it should be the county looks after the signs.
Any other discussion from council?
Yeah,
Council Burrows?
sorry, through the chair, I would concur with the expected lifespan of whatever that product is supposed to be for the signage, for the reasons I explained.
Councilor Dean?
So I understand the intent. I guess what my question is to council is, John, you brought up the idea of the GeoWeb, which isn't a new thing, right? That GeoWeb's been in in use in road building for a couple decades at least, right?
Mhm.
So this policy to me speaks to a test product, a new product.
Go ahead.
If I could respond, so yeah, the idea of new, and that's why I say the idea of new, it isn't so much new as the GeoWeb had never been used in Woodlands County before, in any road. And that was the idea of, you know, there are technologies out there that are 30, 40 years old that we have not used, that we probably should have been using, or maybe should have been using, but there's options to do things. And then also, if you've got a section of road and, you know, let's say it's Range Road 120 where we tried, it wasn't soil cement, it was gravel lock. And it didn't work, but it didn't work because the clay content wasn't there or whatever, but there was a failure of it. So, you know, we had the signage, we got feedback, yeah, it worked for a while, it didn't work, or yeah, it works really well, we wish you'd do the next bit. I got tons of feedback on Horn Road. And the reality is, unless you see that stuff getting laid in there, you have no idea that it's there. And Horn Road, if you took a car down there, you'd get hung up. And that area now, there's a bit of washboard in there, but you certainly won't get hung up. So it's not a new product that's been introduced to the market. It's a product that we're trying for in the county. And again, it goes to that asset management idea of, you know, well, we tried gravel lock in this area, we tried soil cement here, we tried GeoWeb there. It costs X amount of dollars per mile for this, X amount of dollars per mile for that, and X amount of dollars per mile for that. They stand up for different lifespans. We'll know economically as we test these different products in the municipality. And what's the other one? Gravel lock. Gravel lock's a really good one because we had conversations with the supplier and he said, oh yeah, you can't use gravel lock up there, you got no clay. So unless you want to introduce clay and start stirring it into the road and then mix our product in, then it'll work, but we'd recommend something else. So in areas where we do have clay, we can use, you know, gravel lock, but in areas we don't, we can use soil cement. So there's all these different options, and I think especially around conversation that we're having on surfacing of some of these oiled roads, we keep coming back to, and everybody that we talk to said the road base is really what's important. You'll get tons of use out of the surface if the base doesn't move. So the first thing the surface guys did was point to the next door neighbor, which was the soil cement people, and said, they'll get you a base, we'll do the surface, then you'll have a road. So it's that kind of mentality of putting that signage up.
Councillor Dean?
Sure. So what I'm trying to get an understanding of is, I understand what you said, that makes sense. What I'm, I don't know if struggling is the right term, but how many projects on any given year would then fall under this type of policy where we're trying something other than just regular routine maintenance? Would it be 5? Would it be 50?
Through your chair, Councillor Dean, other than 2020, we haven't used any product that would fall under this.
Okay, so we're not talking about 50 roads out there that we have to put signs up for.
Correct.
No, it's maybe, you know, if we're trying trial, whatever, maybe for a road or something to that.
And also, I just wanted to add support to Bruce's idea that I think we should be looking after the signs too.
Anybody else? Anybody want to make a motion with council's amendments? Councilor Burrows?
I'll make the motion that we forward it to council with those amendments to county look after the signage and make the signage up for the
Life expectancy. of the
life expectancy of the product, yeah.
Hey, that motion work for you, Andre?
Yes, sir.
All right. Just checking. Any other discussion from council? Motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Down to 6.3. That is you again there, Andre?
It is.
All right.
Dave.
Yes, Corinne.
Reeve, council, I'll ask that you all please refresh your iCompass. So a simple Control R on your keyboard will give you a refresh. The giant spreadsheet that was attached to this RFD had some formatting issues, so I reformatted it and re-uploaded the document since call to order. So I'll just ask that you all do that, and we should see the updated spreadsheet.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see you through Mr. Frank there. Thanks.
He's very
Thanks, Peter.
tall.
Right, whenever you're ready there, Andre.
Your worship, members of council. One of the requirements from the council's business plan and the tactical plan was for administration to prepare a vehicle equipment maintenance and replacement policy. The attached policy identifies a number of items, the purpose, definitions of life cycle, condition assessment, fleet management, replacement reserve funding, which is the funding for equipment replaces provided from a dedicated vehicle replacement reserve, which is funded through annual contributions from the departmental operating budgets, plus any disposal proceeds from the sale of decommissioned vehicles and equipment. Goes into procurement of the fleet, attachments, that they be budgeted when obtaining a vehicle, the color of vehicles, decaling, fleet maintenance, the records, the fuel, and then there's a lengthy area regarding equipment replacement. And wherever it says vehicles in the policy, it refers to vehicles and equipment. Talks about vehicles deteriorating differently depending on factors. Has anticipated unit life cycle chart showing pickup trucks, larger trucks, motor graders, garbage trucks, backhoes, loaders, fire trucks, hydrovacs, trailers, chipper spreaders, mowers, large area mowers, and trailers. There's a guide for accelerated or delayed replacement of vehicle equipment. There's factors that are assessed to determine the condition of equipment, such as the age, kilometer hours, the type of service, reliability, maintenance, repair, conditions, and then there's a point rating. So if a vehicle or a piece of equipment gets a point rating of 23 to 27, then that indicates it should be considered for replacement. Goes into the disposing of fleet and equipment, and then the closure of replacement vehicles, where all the ends get tied through the asset coordinator and then through to corporate services for insurance. It's a lengthy policy, a lengthy RFD. I could go through it all, but I'm sure everybody's read it. Essentially, if there's no plan, that translates to a failure down the road. Translates to no funds, and equipment doesn't get replaced when it should. The benefits of a timely replacement policy is you get the best value for the dollar of purchasing. units are disposed of in the right time. There's a plan, the dollars are in place. The county looks good when the equipment looks good. Employee morale is improved. They, not a lot of compliments or comments regarding poor reliability and always in for repairs. Any questions?
Okay, council, any questions from council? Councilor Burrows and Councilor Prestige.
So through the chair, first of all, I'm really happy to see this. It looks like we're putting something together. There's only two things that I'm curious about on this. One of them is, how do you determine a lemon? I know your point system is on here, and you kind of would max out on the unreliable thing, but it wouldn't make the 27. So can you identify, is there a mechanism in here to identify? Because every once in a while, you're going to get one of those
Yes.
Friday wonder wagons that, all the new shift put together and really wanted to go home early. And you just really wish you could get rid of it.
So through the chair to Council Burrows, the rating system is a guideline, but it is not a tell-all, do-all. An RFD still goes to council identifying that things have to be replaced and why. And if there's a lemon, then that would be brought forward identifying what the issues have been and that it's repetitive and constant with that one unit.
Okay, if I could continue, so that goes to two other points. So one is the reporting. Is there a reporting mechanism in this back to council on maintenance costs and some of these other things? Because I know we have a big expensive shop and moving some of our, I'd like to know how much third-party stuff we're doing and how much internally as well. And if there's some cost savings that can be done, but we can't make that decision because we don't have the information. But this is such a move in a good direction. And the third observation is when I look at the graders, there's about five graders, and I think they're all purchased in the same year.
Yes.
Is there something in here or the fleet management or something that has a staggered start to some of this? So we're not, 600 and some odd thousand for a new grader, and you've got 6 of them all in 1 year, that's a hefty. Plus, your maintenance crew, as those decline, they do require more maintenance. So if you've got half that are new and half that are older, you can kind of keep up from a maintenance standpoint, but it's hard if they're all aging out at the same time, so
Through the chair to Council Burrows, if you look at the attached spreadsheet, the one that Corinne uploaded again, you'll find that as we get a little bit further down the road, for instance, those 6 graders, or 5 graders, they were all bought at the same time. So what we've proposed is that we buy, or we obtain, acquire, whatever you choose, 2 per year to get through the initial, and then as we get out further, then it's reduced to 1 per year. Because they were all bought at the same time, we're trying to stagger it slowly.
At a fire sale on graders that year.
Yeah.
Councilor Prestige?
Through the chair to Andre. What I don't like is you have age and usage. When something is 10 years old and it's still in good shape, that shouldn't be a trigger to get rid of it. It's, especially on the heavy equipment, it's so expensive. You gotta get your dollars out of that piece of equipment. And when you're just spending them out because they're 10 years old, to me, that just doesn't work.
Through the chair to Council Prestige. So age of equipment, hours, kilometers are a trigger. So let's say a grader comes up to the 7 year. time to be replaced, or it gets to the hours, that triggers it, but it's still got to go through that, condition assessment. Just because a unit comes up to the years or the kilometers doesn't mean it's going to get replaced. If it doesn't hit that 23 to 27 points, it stays in the fleet.
Yep, no, I would also like to commend you on this. This is very well done. Thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
this. Councillor Wilhelm, you had your hand up there?
I was just gonna say that same thing. I was gonna talk about the point system.
Okay, Councillor Cogan?
Yeah, through the chair to Andre. Has there ever been any consideration, in the next number of years, when I look at this, is there a possibility that you refurb a unit and buy a new unit, like, so that you start to stagger them out that way? Because they have these programs now where you can refer them and get pretty much new warranty for a lot less money. And is there a possibility that that can be injected into this in some way, shape, or form?
Through the chair to Councillor Culkin. When it's time to replace a unit, that is something that would be looked at. And it would be weighed against purchase of a new, and warranty would come into play. So all that information would come back to council for an approval.
Yeah. If we hit the trigger point where it's ready for replacement, it's still going to come back as an RFD for us to make the final decision on. So, but this will at least determine, like you said, if it's there or what it needs. So, any other questions from council on this? Councillor Wilhelm.
I'll motion that the Governance and Policies Committee recommends acceptance of the vehicle and equipment maintenance and replacement policy as amended. Is it as amended, or is this as presented?
I put that in case council made
Because we
amendments
amended
to
it? Yeah, sorry, as presented then.
Okay. Motion on the floor. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you again, Andre.
Thank you.
So our next meeting date, we schedule the next meeting on January 24th. That's what it says on our package.
You don't have, yeah, your
Oh, we
worship.
don't have one next month.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so January 24, 2024 at 5. Takes us down to the last one. Councillor Burrows.
Motion to adjourn.
No discussion on that. Call the question. All in favor? And we are adjourned.